Good morning, Ronn Owens, KGO. Let us get right to it. In the studio with us, the minority leader in the House, Nancy Pelosi. Would love to be Speaker again. We have much to ask. Armstrong and Getty did the show previous to mine. This morning, I wake up and they asked a damn good question. Remember when President Obama drew the red line and the red line was passed and we didn't do anything? Trump is seriously seem to be doing the same thing right now with North Korea. Not that I know what to do, but he keeps saying, if you one more test and that's it, you're done. One more test and we're going to get their fire and fury, and it's empty. So what do we do? How do we deal with that problem?
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely to see you on this prayerful day for Houston.
Yeah.
I don't agree with your stipulation that as to President Obama's actions, but to get to President Trump and Korea. North Korea requires thoughtful, serious collaboration among nations. It does not require rash, reckless statements. And I know the issue pretty well. I'm one of the few members of Congress who's been to Pyongyang, to North Korea. So I know what the danger is there. I know the issue as an intelligence person, as an appropriator, et cetera. I've been close to it. And President Obama was close to agreement with the president of Korea's father, and then he died. And so now we have a situation where we have two unpredictable leaders. Kim Jong-un is, I don't even put President Trump in the same category as he is. I mean, he's a dangerous, dangerous person. But both of them are unpredictable. That's not what we need now.
But even if you sit down and you make a treaty with them, look, President Clinton did, and they violated. What's the sense? I mean, is there a way of sitting down with North Korea and working this out?
Well, in terms of President Clinton, neither side really, because when we lost the election, President Bush came in. The Secretary of State, Colin Powell, said we're going to follow the Clinton path here, and the administration, others in the administration said, no, we're not. So there's, it's more complicated than just saying what you just said. However, respectful of that, yes, we can have multinational conversation about how we deal. And the UN is going to have a resolution on the launch of this ballistic missile as well. Then
let's talk locally if we can. You and Ed Lee have really been under fire because you're talking about white supremacists that we're trying to demonstrate here in San Francisco on Saturday. And to some degree, I bought it, and then I really started looking up this Joey Gibson, and there's nothing really. I mean, he actually wore shirts at his rally, F white supremacists and F neo-Nazis. Yeah. I mean, this is, I don't quite get, so what's the basis of calling him a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist? Because of
what these events can attract, as well as what I think that one of the reasons they canceled is that some of the people that might have been associated with them did not want to be associated with other people who might be attracted to such an event. There is a movement in our country that was energized by Charlottesville of the Nazis, the white supremacists, white nationalists, whatever their particular name happens to be, and they are energized to go around the country. You saw what happened in Boston with the silent tens of thousands of people turning out. I didn't think that the Crissy Field, which is a national park, should be a venue for a place that can provoke violence.
But they make the decision themselves, correct, as to whether or not they wanted to have it open.
Who's
the GGNRA?
Well, I don't know who made the decision. I think it was a terrible decision for them to make. What is next? Ellis Island, we're going to be against immigrants. The Yellowstone National Park. I mean, this is a place where people go for peaceful recreation with their families. It shouldn't be a venue that is closed for 2 days so they can put up 4,000 feet of barricades to keep people away.
So San Francisco worked out just fine. The next day they go to Berkeley, and you've got Antifa. I mean, Antifa, these are extreme to the left, not extreme to the right. They're extreme to the left. They cover their faces so you can't identify them. There should be similar disgust connected with them as there is to people on the far right, no?
Well, what is Antifa? Antifa is an organization that is fighting against Nazism. As an organization, that's one thing. People who act violently should be rejection. We reject any violence. We are a
But
city.
the violence in Berkeley was Antifa.
No, but I mean, if when you say it's Antifa, maybe it was individuals in Antifa, and therefore anybody who's committed an act of violence that needs to be addressed. The idea give equivalence to an organization whose purpose is to fight Nazism is equivalent as organizations who are there to Heil Hitler, I think is not right.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but when you have the far right, as horrible as they may be in my mind and yours, the far left equals it in terms of the violence, and then you get to the idea of recognition. Say what you will about the far right, at least they stand up for what they believe. The Antifa, they have masks, they cover themselves.
I understand, but I don't
cowards.
say you say equal. When you say equal,
They're both hateful.
Well, one is hateful of Nazism,
Yeah,
and the other is not. One is heiling Hitler, or whatever the expression is. But, it's about individual. Look, this is a city committed to free expression, peaceful free expression. I've had my own family members, shall we say, pulled in for demonstrating peacefully. And I said, as long as you're demonstrating peacefully, whatever consequences there are. But nobody should be engaged in active violence.
Next issue, Arpaio. I mean, the idea of pardoning Sheriff Joe.
Okay, you want to go fast through some issues.
You betcha.
Okay,
You betcha. I'm racing through you. You give me a half hour, I'm going to take it.
Okay.
All right,
okay.
Arpaio.
Okay.
I feel like John McLaughlin. All right, next issue, Arpaio, the pardon.
The president has a right to pardon. The process is one where an appeal is made to the Justice Department. There's a review. Something is very wrong with this. First of all, the pardon, but second of all, just the arrogance of it all, that the president would take it upon himself without going through a pardon process and just say, what do you say? I'm proud as a rooster or something?
He was very pleased with what he did.
Yeah, no.
And he even said the reason that
wrong.
he did it.
It was wrong. It was anti-constitution.
Well, he also said that the reason he came out with it on Friday night, and a lot of people, myself included, questioned the timing, is because of the ratings, that more people would be watching.
No.
That's what he claimed.
That's what he claimed. But the fact is, Friday night is a place you bury a news item. If you want something not to be seen by anybody, you put it out in front. And there happens to be a flooding of a major city, a storm bigger than anything that has occurred in 800 to 1,000 years. You put out your statement while the news is on that subject.
I agree on that one. But then the idea that Arpaio didn't go through the process. Yesterday I mentioned that. I talked about it on the air, and I get people saying, what about Mark Rich? I mean, Clinton pardoned Mark Rich.
Well, I don't know if he went through the process or not, but he should have. He should have.
What is the process? I thought a president can just say you're
pardoned.
pardoned.
In other words, my experience with this is because one time I inquired about what does that take, and they say you have to have an appeal to the Justice Department. Then that goes through the process through the President's counsel and all of that to a recommendation to the President. It isn't off the top of your head. I'm going to pardon somebody like that.
And the bottom line is there's no reason for him to have been pardoned because you're talking about somebody in contempt of court.
He shouldn't have been pardoned.
Forgetting everything else that he did, the fact is that he just violated the judge's order.
And it doesn't respect the Constitution of the United States.
We're talking with former Speaker and current Minority Leader in the House, Nancy Pelosi. And when we come back, we'll find out if she's got a Congress to go to. Stay with us. And we're talking with Nancy Pelosi. Let's talk about Congress itself. The president has said if the money for the wall is not appropriated, government should be shut down. The last one was so wonderful and everybody was so pleased. Maybe that's why he's doing it. Enough sarcasm. The point is, how could he hold that hostage? What is it, $1.6 billion and $3.6 total? And if you don't come up with that money, then boom, government should be shut down?
Well, let's all take a deep breath. Because what the president is talking about is a ridiculous approach to government. When government was shut down before, it was costed tens of billions of dollars to our economy. It was a horrible thing. It was closed for 17 days.
And all the people who didn't get their checks wound up getting paid for it anyway, and they didn't do the work.
And the other part of it is that there were needs that had to be met for the American people. So we have a responsibility to meet the needs of the American people. The president saying they have the majority. They have Republican majority in the Senate, Republican majority in the House, and a president of the United States. If they have the votes to put money in for the wall, then they have a president who will sign the bill. If they're depending on Democrats to help them pass the appropriations bills, they won't be getting the money for the wall. And the president should not be threatening to shut down government.
You consider the wall itself immoral?
Immoral, ineffective, expensive, and so I mean it's a non-starter. And for them to say, well, maybe we'll keep some of the dreamers here, we'll trade off the dreamers. The dreamers are not negotiable. The wall is an immoral, indecent, expensive. Building a wall is. I saw the Pope in Rome a couple weeks ago, a week and a half ago. The idea of a wall and stopping immigration and all the rest. This is about a value system. This isn't. This is. And then he says Mexico's going to pay for it. So okay. So we have a lot of things on the table. We have a responsibility to try to seek common ground, to find where we can have cooperation between Democrats and Republicans to keep government open. We are unified in the Democratic Party by our values, and our values do not include a wall between the United States and Mexico.
It's interesting. The Trump people will say, look, he said point blank he's going to have the wall, Mexico pay for it. He promised it, and he follows through on his promises. As I recall, also, he talked about the Dreamers, and he said that he was going to give them the opportunity to stay in the United States, and he changed on that.
And the LGBT community was just going to love him, and now he's doing what he's doing there. But he also said he was going to have, let's just get right to what we need right now, which is a big jobs bill, infrastructure, and the rest.
Well, you call it, you as the Democrats call it, a better deal political agenda. Right. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Democratic Party, because one direction, you and I do not seem to be on the same course on this one.
Let's see.
The way I see it, if you want the Democrats to get back into office, you've got to move more to the center. You've got to get more people coming in and saying, hey, it's reasonable. The more out to the left you go, it's like the more out to the right you go with the Republicans. The more out, far to the right you go, you lose people. Same thing happens with the Democrats. You stand for the various things that the Democratic Party has always stood for. I understand that, but the bottom line is you can't put those into place unless you win the election.
Perfect. Where do we disagree?
Well, because I find that the stands that you take tend to be far, far more liberal.
Yeah, I'm a liberal. I'm proud to be a liberal, progressive from San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And our San Francisco values are about respecting people.
Do you think they translate across the country?
Well, again, I represent my district. Other people represent theirs. And but we all share a value of respect. We take an oath, liberty and justice for all, one nation, under God, indivisible. So let's just get to your basic point. Let's talk about the better deal. The better deal is about jobs, better pay, better future. It's about an issue of infrastructure, building infrastructure for our country, which we need to do in a way that creates good-paying jobs. Also giving people tools for the future. Some people, there are several million jobs right now unfilled in our country which do not require a college degree. They say there's 6 million jobs unfilled. Half of them do not require. So we're talking about tools for the future. This isn't even political. It's not even partisan. And
well, it's political in the sense that President Trump used that in the campaign too, trying to get blue-collar workers.
But he
didn't.
Jobs. But he hasn't. But here we are, 9 months into his. We're into September now, almost 10 months since he was elected, and he still has not come forward with an infrastructure proposal. We have them on the table in a way that, again, creates good-paying jobs. Now, I think that in our better deal, we're talking about something that is not particularly partisan, if that's what you're saying, in terms of moving to the middle. Is there anything objectionable about saying
Well, who doesn't want more higher wages, and who doesn't want more skills training? But these all cost money.
No, let me just tell you something. And this is really important. I'm glad you took us to this point. The basic difference between Democrats and Republicans is how we deal with the budget. The budget is a statement of our national values. what is important to us as a nation should be reflected in how we allocate our resources. The Republicans start with trickle-down economics, tax cuts for the wealthiest people in our country, corporate America's special interest. And that is trickle down. If it creates jobs, that would be good. If it doesn't, so be it. That's the free market. The Democrats are saying we need to have middle-income economics where we increase the paychecks of America's middle class so that they can consume, have consumer confidence, inject demand into the economy, create jobs, bring revenue to the Treasury, reduce the deficit.
And many of the people in that category would say, fine, like I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to open my own business, and there are far too many regulatory...
There aren't that many. You know, that is something that the Republicans... It's not a myth. If the people, as I say to them, you have a particular a regulation that you'd like, bring it to the table. Many of the regulations they have concerns about are not at the federal level, and many of the things that the Republicans advertise about are about clean air, clean water, worker safety, and the rest of that, which are necessary for us to have a safe and healthy a workplace. But to get back to the point, so the Republicans say we're going to give tax breaks to the wealthiest people, and we're saying not 1 cent for the 1%. Tax breaks for the wealthiest people. And by the way, when we do that, it's going to cost the debt, about $3 trillion over 10 years. $3 trillion. So where are we going to get that? Then we've got to cut our investments in education and all of these things on the domestic side. It's one of their dumber ideas with stiff competition, mind you, but because nothing brings more money to the Treasury than investment in education.
Given the
early childhood, K through 12, higher ed, lifetime learning for our workers, and that lifetime working is central to the better deal. School tools for the
But look how it's working in this state. I mean, we're 47th on the list in terms of what we're able to accomplish, and yet over 50% of the budget in the state goes for education.
I don't see a lot of people moving out of California.
Well,
I do not see a lot of people moving out of California.
Prettier place than Buffalo.
But, well, it's not only it's a place of a hotbed of activity in terms of protecting our environment, saving our planet, God's gift to us, our planet. Thank God for Jerry Brown being so outspoken on this. Unfortunately, the president has rejected data, evidence, truth, fact on the subject.
Then let's talk about the president for a minute. His approval rating is 34%.
Yeah.
So if you're a Democrat and you're going into an election, it ought to be like shooting ducks in a barrel. Or is it fish in a barrel? One of those. Shooting, just an easy
That's
thing
not
to do.
mix our metaphors. I do it all the time, and I get highly criticized.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about yelling wolf in a crowded theater. Okay.
Fire.
Having said that, no, I know, but anyway, enough of that. But the bottom line is the Democrats should have an easy time of it, and yet there've been four different elections since Trump took office, and you've got Georgia, South Carolina, Kansas, is it Montana? I think there are 4, and the Democrats lost every one of them.
Yeah,
why?
well, you know what? I'll tell you why, and thank you for asking. Those were races that President Trump selected. Suppose we had a Democratic president and appointed somebody from San Francisco to be the secretary of this, somebody from Berkeley the secretary of that, somebody from Brooklyn the secretary of that, something from L.A. the secretary of that. We wouldn't have a chance to win those seats. But we put up a fight. I mean,
$35 million.
I mean, the Republicans would not have had a chance to win those seats. Donald Trump selected the special elections. We're selecting the full agenda.
In what way? Because he got the people and put them into his cabinet? Or
yes.
And you think that was the reason?
Well, it was part of the reason. They're not going to put people in the cabinet who are going to lose the seat. But that's neither here nor there. What is here and now is that we're going into an election 1 year and 2 months before the election, and the president of the United States is in the 30s. That makes you pause. If say you're a Republican and you want to run for office, you might say maybe next time when the president is 35. So we feel very poised. And as I say, he selected those first 4. We're selecting the 24 that we need to win to take back the Congress.
You make it sound like the Democratic Party really is just all in lockstep together, and it really is not.
It never has been. The Democratic Party is the Democratic Party. It's a party of vitality.
Will Rogers.
Yeah, but that's the whole dynamic of it. But we do have shared values about respecting people and their rights and broadening their opportunity. And we all know that central, a problem solver for everything, is a good paying job in a safe workplace. And that's what we are advocating in our better deal. Better pay, better jobs, better pay, better future, tools for the future. And we're very excited about it, and it's very unifying within our party. Our party has always been, shall we say, imaginative, lots of ideas that come forward. But we have come together on the better deal.
Of course, the other side says, yeah, some of these ideas are very good, but they all cost money, and where's the money going to come from?
Instead of giving tax breaks to the wealthiest people in our country, which only increase the deficit, do not create jobs, we could be investing in the education and lifetime learning training for our workers. We
Nancy.
could be building infrastructure that moves commerce, that cleans the air, that has broadband for the future, instead of giving tax breaks to the rich. Because you know what? A tax break for the rich is a tax expenditure. It costs money. And instead of spending money on giving you and me a tax break, we should be investing in the education, lifetime learning of our workers. One other point in that regard is that we do agree that the corporate tax rate is too high. So we look forward to working together with the Republicans to say, how do we reduce the corporate rate as we can create jobs? But we're not taking it down to where they want to go. But let's find a compromise.
It's difficult for me to say I need a quick answer on this, but just is there any kind of renewed cooperation between the parties in Congress right now?
Of course. There has to be. And
I know there has to be, but is there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, it depends on the president, too, because right now we're coming to a place, September 30th is the end of the fiscal year. This is fraught with meaning for us. The end of the fiscal year means we have to have our appropriations bills, that means the budget bills, finished, A, and B, we have to lift the debt ceiling. We have to lift the debt. Now,
they'll do it temporarily. They go from September to December or something like that. There'll be a 3-month extension. That's almost guaranteed. You know that.
I don't know that at all, because the what do they call themselves now? The Tea Party? The element in the Republican Party has said if they have a clean debt ceiling, we're going to unseat the speaker. So they have their own issues within their own party. But you know what? We all understand that we have a responsibility to find as much common ground as possible. Where we don't find it, we stand our ground, but we have enough humility to say, what's a better idea? What will create growth for our country in a way that reduces the deficit and creates jobs? That's what we go there to do.
Nancy Pelosi, you and I go back way, way, way back.
Yeah, long time.
And we've disagreed very often on things, but I got to say, I've always liked you very much as a person, and I've always qualified. When I get dumping on you for something, I will qualify it by saying that. You as an individual, your heart is in the right place. You're a superb politician, given the fact of how much money you've raised for the party and with the speaker. Doesn't mean I agree with everything you say, but it's great to have you back.
I don't know anybody that agrees with everything that everybody said. Anybody, husbands, wives, families, and the rest. But I like you too, and I've never dumped on you.
There you go. Well, my wife, she'll go along. She doesn't agree with me 100%. But
I know.
10%'s not bad.
That's the excitement of the world, and we all have to have the humility to accept other views.
I don't know. What's that word?
Humility.
I got to look that up.
Yeah, no, you do.
Nancy Pelosi, thanks a lot.
Thank you. My pleasure.